Good Monday morning. Welcome, addicts. Welcome. It's good to see so many of you already in chat. It's going to be a great day. I've got a theme for today, as you can see from the title. We were going to talk a little bit about Sarah Boone. I've done a lot of research over, again, going over some of the same stuff we've seen before, but I think I've drawn some new insights from some of this. I want to share that with you today. But let's see. It looks like it's pretty much cold everywhere. All of you guys are reporting it's basically freezing. We're all frozen. I am too. I think it's 29 degrees outside here, so it's nice and cool. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of warm up before Thanksgiving, a big turkey day. But that'll be fun. Let's see what we've got here. So Debbie. Good morning, everyone, says Debbie. And with that, Debbie has won the internet. Being the first in chat, she gets to claim her rightful ownership of the internet and everything IP related. So congratulations, Debbie. Use it as you will. Just make sure it stays up and running for the rest of us. Thank you, Roxanne. Good to have you here. Lindsay, Exodus, Tiffany, Abby's in the house. Katie Q, good morning. Shauna, Bruce, cool in Texas, says Bruce. Everything's better in Texas, right? Last Poet is cold as well. Toxic Orchid, 71. Negative 15 degrees centigrade Celsius here in Canada, sorry. That's chilly, a little chilly. MB says, good morning, everyone. Watched Saturday's video yesterday. You're late, but we'll forgive you. So many fantastic pets. You guys are amazing. You're amazing. 21.4 and holding. That's very precise temperature. As Shauna says, it's cold. Wonderful, wonderful. We wanted to talk today, this Monday morning, because there are a few things happening this week, specifically with the Delphi murders. Tomorrow, we should have a hearing with the new judge, right, about the releasing of the probable cause affidavit, which is the law in the state. By law, they have to release it. And so a lot of news media organizations have been pestering the judge saying, hey, you've got to do this. So we'll see if he has a reason to keep it sealed. If he does, we probably won't hear what the reason is. But if he doesn't, we might get some good insight into how they or why they think that Richard Allen is the one who's guilty of those murders. Anyways, we've got that coming this week. We'll be looking at that tomorrow. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone is the Suitcase Murder Trial, as it's been known. Good morning, Mississippi Raptors and Reptiles. Good to have you here. Katrina, cold there as well. Everybody, we're all waiting for tomorrow. That's going to be exciting. But we want to talk a little bit about Sarah Boone. Let me switch cameras here so we can. Let's go here and get rid of that. Okay, Sarah Boone. I've got the videos running in the corner. I've got the audio turned off, but these are the two videos that most of us have watched, probably in the entirety. The bottom video is Sarah Boone on the scene being asked questions, basically her first interaction with police. It's not an interrogation. It's just she's offering a police report. Here's what happened. Here's why we called the fire department. This is about noon, the day that her boyfriend was found dead. After spending roughly 11 hours zipped in a suitcase. So the gentleman there is her ex, her former husband, who she called before she called the police. So we're probably going to hear from him should this go to trial, which we anticipate it will. But throughout all this, through both in her statements to the police on scene, as well as in the top video, which is video from her interrogation at the police station right before she was arrested. She said the same thing, that she didn't mean to kill him. She did mean to put him in the suitcase, but she didn't mean to kill him. And so she has maintained this lack of intent defense from the get-go. But what has been really insightful is the letters she's written from jail. So I'm thinking, if you were looking for a pen pal on the inside, Sarah might be your woman. Because she likes to write letters. She says she even has used up pens writing letters. And she even got a letter from somewhere across the pond. It might have been one of you. Abby, I'm looking at you. Did you write her a letter? Because she says she got a letter from across the pond. The interesting thing is in this case, Sarah Boone has qualified for and has been appointed a public defender, which she then released because she was going to hire her own attorney. Then ended up not being able to pay that attorney, went back to public defender, and then went through a string of public defenders, with her now being on her 6th public defender, who is Frank J. Bankowitz. And she's not happy with this one. Note to self, never willingly get into a suitcase. There are a few things you don't want to climb into. One of those ice chest coolers, refrigerators, laundry, washing machines, dryers. You just don't do it. It does not end well, as George would attest. I just outed Abby. Apparently, she was the one who wrote Sarah Boone a letter. So, well, at least Abby, at least somebody's updating her with her case information, because apparently her lawyer is not. And that was her big complaint. And I went back through these letters. Let me see if I can bring them up on screen here. I went back through the letters. Box source 1 is going to be, let's take camera 3. How about that? Nope. Okay. Well, close. I've got them here on screen so I can see what they are. But I went back through these letters and just read through, trying to get an idea of exactly where she's coming from, seeing if there was something between the lines, so to speak, that might give us an indication of where this trial is headed or what her mindset is. I'd love to know what the defense will be, but as we know from Matthew Terry, just because you have a specific defense you want presented doesn't mean that's exactly going to be the defense that the lawyer presents. We saw in Matthew Terry's case just last week where, yes, KDQ, that Frank J. Bankowitz is her lawyer. But we saw in the Matthew Terry case just last week that he was not happy with what his lawyers had done. He was of the opinion that they would share his story and tell the events as he had recounted them to them. And when they didn't, he stood up and made it known to the judge and said, hey, I was promised that they would do this, and they didn't do it. It became a little fiasco. I think we got over it, just a speed bump. Nothing that would cause a mistrial, but it was interesting. But you've got to look at that. Look at Sarah Boone's case in light of the Matthew Terry case and what we saw there, and realize that her lawyer, this Frank J. Bankowitz, might present a defense somewhat different in detail than what Sarah Boone has presented already in her interrogation and her comments to police. But looking at this letter, I'm going back through, looking at her letter to Frank Bankowitz, and basically her whole complaint here is, why haven't you contacted me, right? Why haven't you responded to my letters? Why haven't you answered all my calls? I call you every day. Why do you never pick up? Why have we only met 3 times? And 2 of them were just like, a very brief 15 minutes or so. She did have one 90-minute meeting, which was in person, which was the last one. You'd think she'd be okay with that. But that was on 8/22. So it's been a couple months, right? She written several letters since then, hadn't had any response. She's like, what's the problem? And there are a million country songs that basically say the same thing, but doesn't the phone work as well for you as it does for me? And for her end, obviously it's pretty difficult because there's a collect call going out, but she's like, why can't we connect? Why can't we get together? Why won't you update me? Why can't I get more information? Why can't we work together on this? Why won't you tell me what's going on? Now the lawyer may be working. He may be working his tail end off on this case. He might be frantically trying to find any evidence that he possibly can, or line of defense that he could use to help her out. But according to Sarah Boone, if he's doing that, he's not telling her about it. So we have Sarah Boone sitting in jail, just as she says here at the bottom. Let's see. I missed where it was. It might be in the second letter. She's basically said, I'm sitting here with a big question mark over my head, saying, what is going on? What's happening? Where are we at? So she closes her letter to her attorney after berating him constantly for being a very bad communicator with this weird, almost flirty line, a flirty little, hey, maybe there's something between us type thing. Says, I'm so very grateful, Mr. Bankowitz, for you, all you are doing, all you have done and will do. I think she was very upset just seconds ago for everything he hadn't done, but she's grateful for all he has done and all he will do. We're in this together. He actually is not in this with you. You are on this on your own. He might represent you, but he's not in this with you. And I'm so blessed you are my attorney. God has put us in each other's paths for a reason. Oh, and I can't wait to see what you and he will do. I'm praying the 6th time's the charm. As far as that goes, she's usually it's like 3rd time's the charm, but 6 is a lot. Once you get past beyond like 4 attempts at having a client attorney type relationship, maybe at that point after 4 you might say maybe it's not them, maybe it's me that's the problem. But here she is on number 6 saying, hey, no fault of my own, gone through 6 of these, right? and now maybe she'll see that maybe it's her, but I don't think so. So she sits there and says, please respond. I await your response. Thank you profusely, Sarah Boone. That's the first letter. Then we go over to the second letter, because 4 weeks to the day from that first letter, she writes another letter, but this time she doesn't write it to Frank J. Bankowitz. She writes it to Judge Wayne C. Wooten, who she copied on the first letter, by the way. And in this second letter, you guys are hilarious. I'm looking at chat here. I'm trying to stay focused. You guys throw me off like a dog and a squirrel type thing. But I'm trying to stay focused here. In this second letter to Judge Wooten, she starts out, she apologizes. She's like, I'm sorry for wasting your invaluable time. You have so much better things to do. You're so important, sort of like talking him up a little bit. But then she's like, but I don't have anyone else to go to but you and God. And apparently one of those isn't answering. Well, maybe both of them aren't answering, because after 11 weeks and counting, after sending 4 letters to my attorney appointed by you with no response, and after finally finding an outside resource to inform me of the uneventful, confusing file documents online by my attorney appointed by you, I think that she's talking about Abby here. Clearly, somebody from across the pond told her what was going on in her case. I'm still waiting with the perpetual question mark over my head. So she set up this whole scenario saying, I am not getting any information from my lawyer that you appointed. So she's sort of indirectly blaming the judge for the fact that her lawyer is not contacting her. Now, I don't know why the lawyer doesn't contact her. And maybe if we have Matthew in the house, our resident lawyer from down in Texas, maybe he can let us know if this is normal, especially on a case like this. It is a felony case. It's 2nd-degree murder, right? It's not a death penalty case, but it's still serious, right? She could spend the rest of her life in prison. Is it normal for an attorney to maybe have take a month off as far as contacting the client, especially as we're leading up to trial? Right now, we know that the lawyer, for one reason or another, was not ready to proceed. Whether it was he just received new information, it might have been a different body cam video from some of the documents I saw that had not been shared before and is now available to him. And he says, now I need more time to study that. He might be going over all the video we have, which is a lot of video, right? We've got a ton of video about this. And just trying to say, okay, what evidence is there? Because this is what they need to do, right? He needs to create this theory of defense, right? The theory of the events that as they occurred that he can present and say, even though you see all these evidence, all this evidence, all these facts, all these things that we can't dispute, if you look at it from our lens, from the events as we say happened, all those things could still be true, but it could occur the way we tell you it occurred. That's what he's trying to do, right? And quite honestly, it's a bit of a stretch because it's a little bit bizarre, and he's got to present this in a way that a rational human being would look at it and say, yeah, that sounds like it could happen. So maybe he's doing that. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just working his tail end off, but apparently he is not telling Sarah Boone about it. Now, this presents a couple problems, because if he really is not working with his client, then she might have cause to say, hey, I had ineffectual representation. And the judge, looking at this ahead of time, can see where this is going, can see that without proper representation, this will be overturned on appeal. Any conviction would be overturned on appeal, and she would get to get a restart. Why not fix it right now, right? That's something he could do. He could take Frank J. Bankowitz off the case and say, we need a new attorney. We need somebody who's willing to communicate. If he does that, he throws somebody else in right at the end. And so obviously they will need more time. This has got pushed out maybe another 3 months. Okay. It might be, late spring before we see anything on this. Right now we're looking at January 30th. As a matter of fact, I think the pre-trial hearing is the 17th of January. It's coming up soon. Before that pre-trial hearing, you want to talk to your lawyer because there's going to be things that come up. There may be a plea deal brought up. There may be, different motions made on one side or the other that are very important to how the trial is going to proceed. And if she hasn't talked to her lawyer before this pre-trial hearing, we'll have a problem on our hands. Frank J. Bankowitz, if he hasn't talked to her by then as well, might have his own problem on his hands because we know from history that he's already been reprimanded for failing to communicate with the client, for failing to give that back and forth communication that they need to have effective representation. So as I'm reading through this and I'm looking at this, I can't help but think, is there a chance that Sarah Boone will try to represent herself? I know what you thought. You immediately jumped to DB. Darrell Brooks was a sovereign citizen, or claimed he was, and that made it bizarre. But it's possible that she could try to represent herself. She's had months, if not years, 32 months, according to one letter, and 30, what is it? Is it 36? She's been in prison for almost 3 years, if not 3 years plus a couple days, which is sort of bizarre. Because if I can back up a little bit to her first letter, let's see this. First letter, she says, I've been in prison for 32 months, right here. She's saying 32 months already. If I can try to highlight that. No, it doesn't want to highlight, but there it is. 32 months, right? She writes, I've been in prison for 32 months. Now, help me. I'm not a math teacher, and apparently she is not either. But she says that she has already missed 4 of her son's birthdays. And I was trying to do in my head the math on that. Can someone help me out? Because I may be wrong, but the way I was raised, we only have 1 birthday a year. And if she's been in jail for 32 months, that's less than 36 months, which would be 3 years. But in those 32 months, she's missed 4 of her son's birthdays, as well as 3 of her own, which I think would also need at least a minimum of 36 months. But just bizarre. Anyway, the things I'm looking at this and seeing that are popping out sort of between the lines as I read this is we either have her trying to represent herself, or we may have a new attorney appointed this one. The pretrial hearing is probably where we're going to find out about that. It's going to be on the 17th of January, if not sooner. If the judge really says, hey, nothing's going on, we can tell this is going to be overturned. Why waste our time? Let's fix it now. Yeah, we'll know. Anyway, so the other thing we have is I am willing to bet a mug, a true crime addict mug, like this one here, that Sarah Boone, over her lawyer's objections, whoever her lawyer ends up being, will testify on the stand, that she will get up and tell her story. I cannot see this woman sitting silent like Matthew Terry. I see her getting up on the stand and explaining the same way she tried to explain in her interrogation that she didn't intend to kill him, and that should be enough. And the fact that he's dead is punishment enough that she has to suffer with. And that will be hilarious because the prosecution will rip her apart. Her story will not hold up. We will hear detailed explanations of just how hide and seek works and why it doesn't make sense to hide the person and then go searching for them. We'll hear detailed accounts of where intent was proven before she even went to bed, and all that. That guy says, can I take that bet? I need a new mug. That guy, since you were first, I'll make that bet with you. When this goes to trial, you'll have to remind me because I'll forget. When this goes to trial, if she doesn't take the stand, you get a free mug. How about that? So anyway, but the caveat to that, if she pleads, obviously that's not going to be the case. If this goes to trial, she's going to take the stand. That's my bet. Now the flip side, that guy, if she does go to trial and take that bet, you're going to have to buy one of my mugs. I mean, fair is fair, right? Someone has to get a mug. I think either way you win because you end up with a mug, but one of them is free. The videos she made are very damning, Terry Graham. 100%. How in the world can you explain? I mean, I heard her explain it. I heard her say, this is just how we interact with each other. George and I have always just had this relationship where it's like, haha, we're flirty, blank you, I hope you die type thing. That's just us being cute, right? I don't think the rational, reasonable human being who's going to sit in the jury will think that's normal. They won't be able to say, yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, though, she takes no context judgment. Then what then, recovery addict? And yes, new mug is a win. I'm just saying that if she goes to court and pleads not guilty, that she will get up on the stand in her own defense. I think that's the terms that I'm willing to accept on this deal. That guy. For her sake, I pray she doesn't defend herself. It would be amusing if she did, but just for us, not for her. I don't think she can get by that. You saw so many people talk to her and have had that conversation where they're like, but you killed him. And she's like, but I didn't intend to. And it doesn't connect. It doesn't connect. I think she will have that same conversation sort of indirectly with the jury as she tries to tell them, yeah, but I didn't intend to. For her, that's the key. And I don't think a lawyer is going to present that evidence quite the same way, although I don't know what else they could present. Really, what is your defense when you admit to zipping him in the suitcase and leaving him there for 11 hours? Exodus says, I thought he had to buy everyone a mug. That would be a better deal for me particularly, but I'm not sure if that guy would sign on to that deal. The videotape of her filming him in the bag says it all. If we lose, we buy Scott a mug. I've got enough mugs, Shauna. That's fine. No, if you lose, you buy yourself a mug was the deal. But a lawyer can't force her to take a plea, even if that's a case to lose. It's her life. No way she admits guilt. Yeah, Mr. Open Torso, you're getting to a point. The lawyer has some free reign in the defense he offered, just like Miss Perry did with Matthew Terry. She, in her closing statements, offered her own version of things, an argument, the way that she felt would be most effective to reach the jury, considering the evidence that had been presented at trial. Sarah Boone's lawyer, if she keeps one, if she is able to get that far in the process, is going to do the same thing. They're going to use the evidence that has been accepted as evidence, as fact in the trial, and fashion their argument around it to get the best possible outcome for her. But there are some things the lawyer can't choose. The plea is one of them, how they plea. The other one is whether or not she chooses to testify in her own defense. And even though a lawyer might beg, plead, steal, borrow, or in case of Matthew Terry, promise something, if you don't, it is still up to that person. So, Lori says, all I want for Christmas is a Crime Addict mug. That would be a great Christmas gift for yourself or someone else. Can you imagine the circus her trial would be? I think she would put DB to shame. Katrina, I think the process would be smoother because, first of all, she's not fighting the system as well as the charges, where DB was fighting the system and the charges. So we had probably more than half of the time we spent in court with DB was him fighting the system, refusing to accept the court's authority, refusing to accept the process for, the procedures, just the rules of evidence for submitting evidence, for how to conduct cross-examinations, for what sort of questioning is allowed, all that. So he was fighting too many fights at the same time, when honestly he didn't have a leg to stand on in the first one, which were the charges he was facing. SWL looking for SWM, smaller in stature for fun and games, preferably hide and seek. Yeah, if you see that in the Craigslist, run. Don't call that one. Bookmark the link just in case. Thanks, that's Abby. He's. Do you already think you're going to be losing that guy? Is that it? No, just kidding. Matthew Harris Law says, I have a side bet, 100 to 1 odds. Her attorney will have a stroke on the day before on the day before trial. If it happens, I buy 100 mugs. If it doesn't, then the gambler has to buy a mug. Wow, that's pretty funny. I don't think whose case did we have that with a stroke? Oh man, it just barely happens. The attorney just basically said, "Oh, I had a stroke," and the judge says, "I'm not buying that for a second." Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. It takes a special kind of crazy to try to fake a stroke to get out of court. Why is this her sixth lawyer, says PG Farbert? PG, the first attorney she was appointed was a public defender, which she then released because she was going to get a private defender. She was going to pay for one herself. Turns out she found out private lawyers cost money, which she didn't have. So then she got appointed another lawyer, and then it went through this series of little hoops where the lawyer she was appointed had represented, the deceased in a previous case where there was a dispute, a domestic dispute between them. So clearly, if you represented the person who died in this case, you can't now turn around and represent her. That would be a conflict of opinion or a conflict of interest. Then you've got another lawyer who has a client that is already called as a witness or a potential witness in this case, and it's like I can't do that because I'm on the other side already. And so you just have a couple. You've got one lawyer who's just said, "Look, Judge, there's a problem, and I can't tell you what it is because of attorney-client privilege, but we just cannot get along. This cannot happen." And the judge is like, "Really? I need you to sit down and tell me why." And he came back and says, "Judge, all I can say is, please, we cannot get along. Please let me out of this one." So we've had just a series of these type of events as lawyers have just said, "I'm out for one reason or another." And now she's gone to Frank J. Bankowitz, who may not be the top of his class as far as his work product goes currently, based on his previous history, but that's who she has, and she doesn't get to choose. When you get a public defender, you're assigned a public defender. You don't get to go down the lineup and you're like, "Oh, I like this one. I think they'll really get along with me." Well, the irreconcilable differences, I think, was the term one of them used. You're correct. Pre-trial date is the court calendar on Discord, right? Pre-trial, that's the 17th, this January 17th at 9 a.m. The actual date for the trial is the 30th, if everything holds, right? If everything holds together and Sarah Boone goes to court, that's what's going to happen. Matthew Harris says, FYI, for those unaware, that's the attorney on the Hannah Payne road rage murder. He had a stroke the day before trial, and the judge found the attorney in contempt. Happened last week. Right. Why would you do this? I mean, is the attorney just not prepared? Is that you just like, I forgot to prepare for trial, so now I need to come up with something? But that would be a good mug, conflict of interest. Mr. Opatoso says, I think she's going to bring that Terry or Halderson case of, hey, state hasn't proven their case and misunderstood how reasonable doubt works. Right. I believe the reasonable part is what people have a hard time with, especially her, because in her mind, she's told this story, whether or not it's true or not, she's told this story so many times that it seems very reasonable to her that that's how it happened. But for everyone else on the outside that's looking at this, the alarm bells are ringing, and it's like, I can't get to the spot where you are, where you see that this is just, a natural occurrence of events, as it might happen with any family who's playing games in the evening with a suitcase. But crazy, a lot of crazy. She was so mad. Let's see. This case is one of the dumbest crime gone so wrong. I just can't imagine what the heck was going through their minds. Shauna, I think alcohol probably had a part to play on both. I haven't seen the autopsy from George, the results, but I'm willing to bet that he probably wasn't at his peak decision-making form due to alcohol. So that could explain how he or why he got in the suitcase, but we'll see. Matthew Harris says, I believe that he in fact had a stroke. He gave a news interview that he sent to the court in email indicating he'd suffered from a stroke. Sorry for the rabbit trail. So the judge didn't buy it, held him in contempt, but you're saying he had a doctor's note. So that's interesting. What is this that's just starting? Antifreeze murder trial, Wisconsin versus Mark Jensen. Motions, hearing. Let's see. Antifreeze. That sounds bad already. Mark Jensen, huh? Let's see where that one is. That's the former stockbroker. He's accused of poisoning his wife with antifreeze in 1998 so he could be with a woman he was having an affair with and eventually married. Oh, that's fun. Is that an old trial? I think that's an old case. I can't imagine it still being around if that was back in 2008. So that might be a replay on that one. Brenda says, "Morning, y'all. Is the audio not working? Now would be a bad time to find out. The audio in the interviews I've turned off. I can let it play if you want. Let's see here. We'd have it a little quieter in the background. We've got camera 2 there. There we go.
I don't know how much I can take.
How's that? Now you can hear her. Is that better? Doesn't every family take suitcase videos? You know? I don't know. Maybe. Dang, I can't even bend down to put my socks on, let alone curl up into a suitcase.
I continuously throw up. I don't sleep. I don't want to see it, if that's okay.
This is the time.
Well, it's on your phone.
This is the best.
And you can either explain it or we take it for what it is.
Yeah. We're just trying to give you the opportunity to tell us what's going on. That's it.
Oh, crap. I filmed the murder.
It's that long?
2 minutes.
For everything you've done to me. For everything you've done to me. Fuck you.
Yeah, she drops a couple bombs here.
And
Fuck you.
that's you, your voice.
Stupid.
Little slurred speech.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
This is gonna play well with the jury, and trust me, this will play before the jury if this goes to trial.
Yeah, that's when you do it. You shook me.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it, please.
I don't want to watch this. Can you please not show the jury this? That wouldn't go well for me. It's funny because
Put him in the suitcase. He had 2 fingers hanging out.
I flipped him over.
I flipped him over and over. I flipped him down the stairs, Judge. Anyway, I just thought he would fall out when I pushed him down the stairs. No, I don't know where she's going to go with this. And it's common for a defendant to actually change their story a little bit in trial. And so it's possible that they do that. Anyway, an interesting side note that I didn't bring up from the letters. Let me see if I can find it here.
This is upside down.
Let's see.
So this image is upside down.
It's going to be, I think it's the one to the judge. Let's see.
That occurred 11 minutes
Yeah,
later.
I think it's the letter to the judge. She says, basically she says, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm tired of being in jail. But let me out, please. I want to get this on the road. But anyway, Carol says, shoot, I missed the beginning, making donuts with the grandkids. Well, Carol, we're not focusing on the interview, although that's playing in the background. We were looking to cut some of the letters that Sarah's written to the attorney and to the judge. And I'm just talking about what we think may happen in the Sarah Boone trial, where she may, she's definitely pushing for at least a change in attorney, right? Because her current attorney is not talking with her. But she might actually be pushing towards representing herself. And she says, if you want help, I'm going to have to do this myself. I'm going to have to, take steps myself to make sure I'm getting the proper defense. So she doesn't come out and say, I'd like to represent myself, Your Honor, but she gets very close to that. And so it's possible. We might hear on pretrial, we might have a similar argument where she says, Your Honor, I'd like to represent myself. I'd like to fire my public defenders. I'd fire around 6.
Not malicious.
Well, saying fuck you.
Let's see.
It's not malicious.
Sarah Boone says, objection, Your Honor. I must object to the omission of this video. Judge, on what grounds, Sarah? It makes me look really, really guilty. It doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't show it from my perspective, even though it literally is filmed from her perspective. Julie says, I just bought a mug. My Christmas present to myself. Well, Merry Christmas, Julie, and thank you. I appreciate that. Let me out. Quoting Diane boyfriend. Now asking judge, let me out. Yeah, she is. But I don't think she's getting out. Brenda says, thanks. I couldn't hear you for a couple minutes for some reason. Okay, so that's what it was. I'm glad that everyone else could hear, but I'm sorry you missed out. You can go back and watch the replay. I promise we were not talking about you, Brenda. We were talking about Sarah Boone. But Mr. Roper Torso, this is true. This is already at play in a couple other cases, like the Spanish teacher murder, where the two boys had posted, I believe, on Snapchat, some incriminating information. But at least in this day and age of social media, a lot more people are documenting crimes. Whipping out that cell phone is just muscle memory, I guess. It's going to be crazy. So my question to you is this: where do we go from here? Where do we go this week? Because quite honestly, we have a situation where most of the judges realize that juries want to spend time with their families this week. That families are getting together. A lot of people have travel plans. Judges have travel plans. Attorneys have travel plans. And so right around Thanksgiving, we have this lull in the system. Okay, like pretty much most of have this lull in the system. Okay, like pretty much most of this week, there's very little happening. There are a couple hearings here and there, but as far as trials go, even in the rape trial of the guy that's the jury's hung, the judge says come back after Thanksgiving and continue deliberating. So this week there's not going to be a lot of events going on. We can do some deep dives into some of the cases that are coming up. We can do that. We can also go back and look at some things that always are happening, like for instance Knoxville. Knoxville has been absolutely amazing. As a matter of fact, right before I came live on today's stream, I was catching up with Knoxville's intake at the jail, and man, it got bizarre. As you've got a gentleman there who may honestly have some mental health issues going on, but he was explaining to the judge exactly how he was born and how long he'd lived in town. Crazy. And he's telling the judge he understands his rights better than the judge does, which is probably not true. When Bite Me says, recovery addicts, when was the last time you played hide and seek? She is ridiculous. Right. You know, I've been playing it wrong all this time. I've always let the people hide themselves, and then I try to find them. I didn't know I was supposed to hide them and then forget where I hid them and then try to find them. Another PSA, use that right to remain silent. Katrina, that will always generally leave you in a better position before the law, because anything you say or do can be used against you and will be used against you in most cases. Note to self, don't video the crime. Good advice. This is like a top 10 list for criminals. Maybe we should do that. We should do a top 10 crime tips. Have you seen the stuff that goes down in Jacksonville, Florida from the ATK and KTA gangs? They record everything and they make music videos about their murders. Ugh. That sounds like evidence that I want to watch on mute. Let's see. How's it hide and seek if you know where they are and have them trapped the whole time? Yeah, that's just the wrong story. And maybe she's going to say, "Oh, I misspoke. It wasn't hide and seek. It was." Where am I going with that? I can't think of a single game where it's like, "Hey." Unless it's from a movie about stunts that where you do stupid things. I don't know. What in the world? Hide and seek is just that's a kid's game. I thought he was okay. Yeah. We could watch some interviews. We could. Knoxville has some interesting people on. Always, Katrina. That's an option. Let's watch some Knoxville. The defense attorney, that hung case is going to come back on Monday having lost 20 pounds from the stress of waiting. Man, it's bad if you lose weight over Thanksgiving, Mermaid. That's going to be crazy. Car chases, we can do that. Stop self-snitching. Color me. I have to look. I have not seen yet, but I have not been looking. I didn't look over the weekend, so sorry. Tip number 1, don't commit crimes. Hide and sleep. That's it. It's she didn't know it was hide and seek. Matthew Harris says, recovery addict, here's a fun evidentiary fact. Since Sarah Boone doesn't appear in those videos, the state will have to put on a witness who is familiar with her voice and speech to authenticate her voice. Who do you think that witness will be? Ex-husband? Neighbor who heard them fight all the time? Who possibly had interactions with them when they were drunk, which apparently happened frequently. Yeah, unless she testifies in her own defense, maybe they can say they can ask her that, have her authenticate her own videos. Lots of good tips here. Just starting a list, just in case. Thank you, Katrina. Send it to me. We'll see if we can make a T-shirt or something. Suitcase. Who can fit in the suitcase? It's like button. Who has the button, but different. Look up the video. Who I Smoke by Young and Ace Wappa with a choppa, and I forget who else. Talk about self-snitching. You know that guy. A lot of rap video, rap music has this sort of stuff in it. I actually, when I was in high school, I took a class, which from the outside may look like it was just like listening to rap music all day, but the class was gang awareness, and it was taught by a gentleman who had spent a lot of years in Compton. And so we just had, we'd sit down, we'd play rap music, and we'd dissect it, and we'd translate it from the slang that they use, so we would understand exactly what they're talking about. And you can follow along with the lyrics, with the court cases, the arrests, with the murders that happen in the news, and it is just bragging about crime. They've just done a law for that. They can't use rap videos all willy-nilly now. It has to be proof. It has to be proof that it's about it. Huh. So we don't get to play the rap music in court. Maybe that's for the judge's benefit. Maybe we can cover the 4 college student murders in Idaho. I've been watching it. Terry, I was watching over the weekend. Do you see I think it was Court TV was doing a live broadcast outside the scene, and they zoomed in. They showed a picture they had taken of the house where blood was leaking through the wall. And it was dripping down the outside of the house. Now, I don't know how they can verify it was blood from that angle. It clearly looks like blood, and it may be, but wow, you can imagine what it looks like inside there. And how in the world do you have 2 people also in the house who didn't hear anything? That 4 people were stabbed to death, and 2 people have no clue what happened. It'd be crazy. Debbie says, I need to turn the internet over to someone else. I'm on 28 hours of no sleep. We're in trouble, Debbie. Debbie, go ahead and pick a second. Not sure who came in second, but we'll let you pass it off on this case. You need to get some rest, Debbie. Worried about you. I'm betting it'll be the ex-husband who verifies her audio. He'll be happy to oblige to help her out of the way. Yeah, I don't think they got along very well. I mean, it's weird, but you sent it on my burner phone. I haven't checked my burner phone yet this morning. I do apologize. I know I got a lot of messages over the weekend from several of y'all, and I just haven't got there. But I'm sure it came through. If you sent it, it's there, and I'll take a look at it. When Boone said she was packing, she meant literally. Yeah. Hard to unzip a suitcase when you're scrunched in one position. Right, and we also know that the zipper was broken to some degree. So that might have been a factor as well. It's hard to get kidnapped if you're overweight. Another PSA. Yeah, fat people don't get kidnapped very often. It's a self-defense thing. It's not a health issue. Doesn't everyone pack their significant others in suitcases before a long trip? You know, that's a running joke. Everyone who's like, oh, I'm going to Disneyland. They're like, oh, put me in your suitcase. Yeah, don't do it. Was horrific. We're talking about Idaho up there. Just crazy. And the fact that they don't have the murder weapon or a suspect yet. It's crazy. Stuff is wild. I'm getting Bundy Corps spec flashbacks for that college murder. Ugh. I feel sorry for the son. Can you imagine Sarah as your mom? Yeah, and he's had 4 birthdays apparently in the last 3 years, so he's growing up fast in this situation. Idaho murders. Does anyone else feel like they have nothing? Seriously, if they're already just begging the public for any information, they might be in a not good spot. But it is hard to have a crime be a perfect murder, right? Something will turn up, information will turn up, and that information will eventually lead to other information. I think they'll eventually find a suspect on that. Sounds like Moscow, Idaho needs a better building inspector if blood can leak through the wall. Yeah, and did you see the investigator in that trial? In one of the hearings, they had the investigator up there talking about it. And I don't know if it was just personal preference, but he came across as the least convincing investigator ever. The way he answered questions, it's like, can you just make it sound a little more definitive? Can you make your arguments just worded a little better so it sounds like you know what you're talking about? Bizarre. There's one other thing we also can talk about possibly tomorrow. Been looking into the OnlyFans murder case. A lot of information there. The thing that's going on right now is basically she's trying to get out on bail. Right? She wants a bond. She wants to be able to be let out, and then come back afterwards. The problem with that is she has arguably millions of dollars. Close to over $1 million was transferred from her account after the murder and before she was arrested to her dad's account, who is now testifying in her defense. She has the ability to make money anywhere because she's an internet personality, an influencer online in several social media platforms. Although now that she's accused of murder, granted, fewer companies will want to deal with her. But the chance of her running and fleeing like she did in other cases is very high. So I don't think that she's going to be let out. For the Idaho stuff, lack of breaking and entering and having a number code on the door. Maybe someone left that door open or the suspect knew the code to get in. I know they left the door open on the way out, but it's possible. But when in doubt, ask for a lawyer. Debbie, I'm going to go ahead and excuse you early. Get some sleep, girl. You've gone too long. We're worried about your health. Lay down, get some sleep. We'll catch up on another day. Thank you. Something tells me there's an ex-boyfriend in the background of the Idaho murder. One of those women was targeted, and I think the others were just in the way. They said there was a target on two of them. Two of them were probably targeted, and two were just in the way. But I think they've cleared like some of the people they had on video, like at the food truck and a couple other things. They've cleared a lot of the people that we would naturally look at and say maybe that's a suspect. Aw shucks, no, I can't pack the hubby. No dang fun. Sorry, Lori, it's out now. One person ruined it for everybody. Debbie, it's an honor to hold the whole world of human knowledge. Thank you for the privilege. That guy, did Debbie pass off the internet to you? Are you going to rename it or anything in your honor? Suzanne says apparently there were others at the house on top of the two roommates who lived there. Right. There were 6 people in the house. 4 of them were murdered with a knife, and 2 of them have no idea what happened. Which I don't know, especially knowing that there were. Unless it could have been. They're college students, and college students occasionally participate in a little bit of a self-medication of one type or another. So it's possible that the 2 who were not killed were sleeping comfortably and didn't hear anything that way. DB was in court Friday with Sue operating remotely. I saw the replay. Sue had taken the day off and DB behaved. Sue didn't look happy at all. Roxanne, I watched that. I think Sue was actually in the Starbucks drive-thru for the entirety of that little hearing. And unfortunately, the judge looked bad in that one because the court has lost the motion that DB filed. He wrote it on paper and filed it, and I think it was basically a request to stay the sentence pending appeal, which will get shot down. There's zero chance that will be upheld, but it's a procedure he has the right to do. So they're going to do that. They'll probably do it again from zooming him in from the prison if he gets transported. But if he's still at the jail when they find him, I'm sure the judge will get that out of the way. Thank you, Katrina. I appreciate the list. We'll take a look at that and see if we can do something with it. The antifreeze trial is a new trial that was ordered. Okay, so it was an appeal. What was the reason the appeal was granted? Do we know? Was this ineffectual defense? Because the appeal can't just be, I don't like being found guilty, I want someone else to take a look at this. Once you've been found guilty, you have any successful appeal is going to be procedural in nature. Like the judge, failed to allow evidence in that should have, he should have, or something like that.
And then called you guys.
I watched the Friday hearing over the weekend. Medical examiner was called. They did show some medical exam photos of the knife wound. And you're talking about the OnlyFans murder. Yeah, the medical examiner, he raised an issue, which I think he did as an expert. He handled it well, like an expert would. He was asked about the wound in the shoulder, and I'm not sure exactly where in the shoulder it was, but it went about 3 inches deep, the knife wound, in the OnlyFans model's boyfriend's shoulder. The knife is pretty rugged. It's got a serrated edge. It's all metal construction. And he was asked questions about knife throwing, and could this have been caused by throwing a knife? And he said, if you were an expert knife thrower, then yeah, but not unless you were an expert knife thrower. And as someone who has thrown a lot of knives, because I grew up as a Boy Scout, and the one thing we do is throw dangerous items around. Okay, we light fires and throw stuff, throw sharp sticks. We throw things in the fire that shouldn't be in the fire. That's what we did as scouts. Okay, so I've thrown a lot of knives, and I can tell you I am not an expert knife thrower, but 1 out of 100, I can have a perfect throw. And it will sink deep into the target. The weight, the rotation will be perfect. Just the angle and everything will work out. And for him to go up there and say it could have been thrown, I think is a big win for her. Because that's her defense, that she threw this in self-defense. But, she's got some other obstacles to overcome as well, considering the fact that she's slashed at him before and laughed at him and said, haha, enjoy the hospital. They said the Idaho kids were killed in their sleep. MB, yes, but one of them has significant bruising consistent with fighting back. I think one of the girls. So that's a possibility. But the other 3 I can understand. But so maybe the other 2 were inebriated and didn't hear what was happening. Imagine going to sleep with roommates and waking up to 4 less roommates. Right, that guy. I imagine, we don't know yet who called the police, right? We don't know who made that 911 call. It may have come from inside. It may have come from outside. Somebody's like, hey, that door's wide open in the middle of the night. And they went up and poked their head in and saw there was blood. So we'll see. There were some defensive wounds. At least a few of them were awake for a moment. If the walls are thin enough to let blood through, what about screams? But so far, the other roommates are cleared. Yeah. So, Suzanne says, no, I mean that there were more than 6. The 4 who were murdered plus 2 roomies and some more that night. So it was like a little party going on there. That'll be interesting to find out. Motions hearing is on now for the antifreeze one. Let me take a look at that one. I won't jump to it live just because I haven't done that. Bruce says, your scout experience was like mine. Good times. I love those memories. I've had great experience. I should have died many times over in the scouting program, but instead I just have some great stories. How many wounds does he have? I think it was a single wound, the way they told it in the OnlyFans case. I think it was a single stab wound in the shoulder that cut an artery. So that may be able to be her defense. 80s Music Man says, hey, everyone, missed you all. Good to see you, Recovery Addict. Well, you didn't miss us entirely. We're still here. Glad you could make it. It came from inside the house. They shared a lot at last night's presser. Man. Oh, man. Are the 2 roommates who survived able to get out of the lease, or do they need 4 more fresh ones? TW, your dark humor is hilarious sometimes. They said 911 call came from the roommate's phone, that it was a friend of the roommate who made the call. All right. And call came from one of the roommate's phone, but someone else was there too, undisclosed. Man. I've heard stories of strangers just showing up to house parties and no questions why they're there. They just assume a person is a friend of someone. Then they just wait around and hide. Well, that's it. You hear about a party, and you're like, oh, I can just sneak in and get free food type thing. I won't say I've ever done that at a wedding because, I wouldn't want to confess to anything. But, when you see a party, sometimes it's fun to pretend you know one party or the other and just go for the food. Don't tell me I'm the only one that may have done that, hypothetically. Thanks, Recovery Addicts. Sunday cases, you forget details sometimes. Yes, there are so many. And Toxic, you have so many on your plate that you're doing the upkeep with on the Discord. Missed the presser last night. This is out of Idaho. Who has a good feed on the presser from Idaho? Let's see. Let me see if we'll get some music playing while I do a search. Is that all right? So we'll do Moscow, Idaho.
This was supposed to be fun. You were laughing before you said he was laughing, you were laughing. You went upstairs, he had his fingers out of the bag, and he was playing. But obviously that's not the case.
So are you guys, so what is it you're trying to, like, register?
Looks like Creme News might have it here.
Why? What? Why?
What was the motivation for leaving him in the house?
Okay, so let's bring down our music. We'll get rid of Sarah Boone's audio here just briefly, and let's take. Give me just 1 second here. Take 6. Oops, there we go. Okay. Oops, we need the audio there too.
Or what we learned in that press conference from earlier today. Janelle.
1 week ago, I stood here and told you about how Moscow police were investigating a home near the University of Idaho's campus where they found 4 people dead. In the last week, we've learned who those 4 people were, how they were killed, and the friends and family they left behind. Today, more investigators were here at the house. According to Moscow police, since opening its tip line, the department has received over 600 calls and conducted over 90 interviews with people who may know something about the case. New at the press conference today, we've learned there may be other people at the house when officers arrived Sunday at 12 p.m.
Okay, that is fantastic. That is amazing. First of all, the number of tips they have means they still have not been able to chase all these down. There may be a tip that seems small that ends up being big and leads to something else. So that's a good sign, first of all, that there are that many tips. But other people at the house, that's fascinating. Let's see.
Police have shared the 911 call came from one of the 2 roommates' cell phones inside the house. But Chief James Fry says he will not disclose the identity of the caller. However, he does not believe the caller is the killer or one of the killers. He says the department has ruled out several individuals who could have been involved in the crime.
We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime. The 2 surviving roommates, a male seen at the grub truck food vendor downtown, specifically wearing a white hoodie, a private party who provided rides home to Kaylee and Madison in the early morning hour of November 13th.
That's interesting.
In addition, we learned Maddie and Kaylee also made calls to a man. Chief Fry later said the man is also not believed to be involved. Sunday, people put up posters in the neighborhood where the crime happened, encouraging people to call police with tips. With still no suspect in custody, the posters say any information, big or small, could be the difference in bringing justice. We also heard from the University of Idaho President Scott Green today at the presser. He says the university has upped its internal security as well as brought in Idaho State patrols to monitor campus. He says the university is also preparing for students to be away from campus
Let me see if I can take
be away from campus through the end of the semester.
The video of just the press conference
1 week
here.
ago, the Moscow community lost 4 bright lights. University of Idaho students Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Goncalves were murdered in a home just off campus. With so many questions lingering, the college town is still on edge with no suspect in custody.
Looking for the
Moscow Police Department held its
press
second news
conference.
conference about the investigation earlier today.
What does she have in her hand? A stun
listed in
gun?
on that. And Abby, they didn't give a whole bunch of new information, but they did clarify some things today.
That's right, Doug. Well, we did learn that some friends, in addition to the 2 surviving roommates, were actually at the house at the time of the 911 call. So
who else is confused by the name Vandals?
Who exactly did make that call? Now, so far, police have received more than 640 tips and interviewed more than 90 people. The Moscow police chief says this is a complex and terrible crime that will take, quote, some time to resolve. Answers to who killed Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Gonzalez, and why.
We want answers too.
1 week ago, the 4 University of Idaho
sound clip.
students were stabbed to death in an off-campus house on King Road. The Moscow Police Department held its second news conference about the murders Sunday afternoon.
It's been very hard for members of the community, and it's been equally difficult for our officers and for the investigators.
Those officers and investigators are still trying to piece together what happened. On Saturday, November 12th, Ethan and Xana went to a Sigma Chi fraternity party from 8 to 9 p.m. The other victims, Kaylee and Madison, were at the Corner Club on Main Street. It's about a mile and a half away from the home on King Road. Police say they were there from 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. After leaving the bar, the girls went to the Grub Truck, just down Main Street from the Corner Club. They were seen in a video from the food truck around 1:40 Sunday morning before using a, quote, private party for a ride home. Captain Roger Lanier says all 4 victims were back at the King Road house by 1:45 a.m.
At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center.
So the morning after.
Reporting an unconscious person.
When police arrived, they found the 4 students dead, 2 on the second floor of the house and 2 on the third floor.
Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault.
Lanier confirmed 2 other roommates were home at the time of the attack. Police also say the roommates called some friends over later that morning because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. The 911 call was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates, and multiple people talked with the dispatcher. At this time, police say they have no suspect in custody. Captain Lanier cleared up some rumors during Sunday's news conference.
This is crazy.
We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime.
Okay, so yeah, he's going to go over that same thing we had before. Anyway, wow. Yeah, it's going to be a while before that case goes to trial, if it does, if they find someone. It took me a few seconds to realize Vandals is some local team. That's the name of the college. That's the mascot. They're the Vandals. So it sounds like vandalism, but I don't know. For them it's cool. But 2 boys and 2 girls? No, 3 girls, 1 boy is who's deceased. They did say it was like they described it as a big hunting, like a Rambo knife. It's called a K-bar knife. It's a knife that I believe is it's a very iconic. I guess Rambo is probably the good scene for that. If you want to know what kind of knife that is, it's not something that would be found typically in a house. They checked the area dumpsters for evidence. It's only an 8 or so hour drive from there. Katrina, are you going to go swing by? Let's see. It's a stalker, one of the girls, I bet. Possibly. But, man, 4 people stabbed to death. That guy says, I wonder if someone followed them from the bar from the food truck. Makes you wonder. At the food truck, if you look at the food truck video, there is a gentleman in a white hoodie that seems to be like making a lot of watching the girls pretty closely. But they've already cleared him. Very cryptic to me. 2 surviving roommates lived on the main floor. They locked the doors, which was usual, or they might have been killed. Wow. Opportunity killing. Oh, man. Ethan and Xana are my best friend's daughter. She was a teacher on campus, and said that 2 of the girls hid in a bedroom during the stabbing. Were they aware of it? Because the call didn't come in till 11 o'clock the next morning. All right, a big, thick hunting knife. Probably not a good plan. Here's a link to the presser. Okay, let me... if I click on that, everything goes away, Chandra. So thank you first for the link. Let's see. I imagine it's not going to give us too much more. Moscow press release. I've got one from 4 days ago. Is that right?
James Fry with the Moscow Police Department. I'm going to be reading from my notes today because I want the information you received to be extremely accurate.
This is from
we know
4
you
days
have
ago.
questions, and so do we. That is why we're here. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this press conference. Joining me today is the Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson,
I think this is an old
University of Idaho President Scott Green, Provost and Vice President Tori Lawrence, University of Idaho Dean of Students Blaine Eccles, Latah County Sheriff Richie Skiles, Chief Deputy of Latah County Tim Best, Idaho State Police Colonel Kedrick Wills. The Moscow Police Department would like to extend our condolences to all family members, friends,
Yeah, this is
the
not
University of Idaho.
This is the
and
first
Moscow
one they
community.
did, I think. This is when they first announced it. But oops, I just shut off the audio there. Let's see if they have another one through University of Idaho. That was on the, let's see, the 23rd. There's one scheduled. There's an update for the 23rd. 15 hours ago. That's the one we want, right? Okay. Put 6. Let's try this one. This look like the right one? Let me jump ahead here just a little bit.
Blaine Eccles,
Yep.
of the Idaho State Police.
Okay.
University of Idaho President Scott Green, Dean of Students for the University of Idaho, Blaine Eccles, and Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson. This incident has shaken our community, has continued to shake our community, and we continue to mourn for the victims. We will continue to vigorously pursue the investigation and pursue justice in this case. It is a complex and terrible crime, and it will take some time to resolve. Today, we want to clarify what we know and where we're at in this investigation. Our primary goal is public safety and to get a completion of this case and bring someone to justice. We continue to dedicate all the resources to this investigation. We've had 646 tips received, and all will be processed, vetted, investigated, and cleared. We've done over 90 interviews in this case so far, and the Moscow Police Department is utilizing the assistance from the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Latah County Sheriff's Office. The personnel that has been assigned to this from the Moscow Police Department is 4 detectives, 24 officers, and 5 support staff.
Which is pretty much
Federal Bureau of
everybody.
Investigators. We have 22 investigators in Moscow. 20 additional are assigned and located in the Treasure Valley, Salt Lake City, Utah, and West Virginia. We have 2 behavior analysis individuals from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. For the Idaho State Police, we have 20 investigators, a public information officer, ISP forensic services, and a crime scene team. We have 15 uniformed troopers to assist our community to help provide the additional resources for our patrols. Detectives are looking to develop any content that would help us in this event.
This is from
Anyone who has observed
yesterday.
any notable behavior or
This is
has
about the
any
Idaho
video
case.
surveillance or can provide relevant information about these murders, please call our tip line at 208-883-7180.
So when they're asking for any video, they'll go up and down the street, and anyone who has cameras on their house or a Ring doorbell or anything, they will ask for video footage from that. Just even if it just caught video of a car driving by at a specific time, that might be enough evidence for them to put 2 and 2 together.
Or you can email the tip line and that is tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. At this time, I would like to introduce Captain Lanier to give you some additional information.
Exactly, Terry.
Good afternoon. My name is Roger Lanier. I'm a captain over the Operations Division for the Moscow Police Department. My last name is spelled Lanier. I just want to first state that this tragic murder has shaken the community. It's been very hard for members of the community, and it's been equally difficult for our officers and for the investigators. We will continue to put all of our resources towards investigating and bringing this to a resolution. Here's what we've determined so far. On the evening of November 12th, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Morgan were at a local bar and were later at a food truck in downtown Moscow. They arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. on the morning of November 13th. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house before also arriving home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Two surviving roommates were also out in the community, and they returned home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until later that morning. On the morning of November 13th, at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center reporting an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence and was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates. Moscow Police Department officers responded and located 4 victims, 2 on the 2nd floor and 2 on the 3rd floor. The Latah County coroners conducted autopsies, and detectives have been provided with the results of those autopsies. We know that the autopsies confirmed the identity of the 4 victims, determined the cause and manner of death as homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims were asleep during the attack.
Okay, so the call that comes in from one of the roommates' phones is about one person. Are they saying basically that they went to respond to one person and searched the house and found 3 more people dead? Is that what you're hearing here?
Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault. Investigators have determined 2 areas of interest within the city and have provided maps which are on our Facebook page and on our website. And these are areas that they have canvassed for additional surveillance video and tips, and have contacted several residents in the areas. The areas are generally south of Taylor Avenue to Palouse River Drive and west of Highway 95. Detectives have also canvassed several other neighborhoods looking for evidence, looking for additional surveillance video, and contacting residents and speaking to them to see if they may have heard or seen something. I want to address several areas of speculation, conjecture, and misinformation that has circulated on social media platforms and otherwise.
What do you mean misinformation on social media? You mean anything we read on the internet isn't true? Let's see what he talks about here.
Do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime: the 2 surviving roommates, a male seen at the grub truck food vendor downtown, specifically wearing a white hoodie, a private party who provided rides home to Kaylee and Madison in the early morning hour of November 13th. Additionally, the identity of the 911 caller and the 911 call have not been released, so any information out there is speculation about that. Investigators are aware that multiple phone calls from Madison and Kaylee's phone were made to a male subject.
So why would they not release the 911 call right now, just from speculation? Is it because it may have been a juvenile? Is it somebody under the age of 18? What's their purpose for not releasing the 911 call, especially if they're not suspects for any reason? That's just curious there. It makes me think.
Any online reports stating that the victims had been tied and gagged are not accurate. Detectives seized the contents of 3 dumpsters on King Road and searched those dumpsters in an effort to find additional evidence, but nothing of note was discovered. Early in the investigation, local businesses were canvassed in an effort to see if any fixed blade type knives may have recently been purchased. And currently, there are no suspects in custody, and we have not located a weapon. I want to assure you that every investigator involved will continue to put all of their resources and all of our partner agencies' resources into continuing this investigation. We do appreciate the community's support. We understand how stressful it is, and we will continue to work through this situation. At this time, I would like to turn the mic over to Colonel Wills from the Idaho State Police.
Thank you, Captain. My name is Kedrick Wills, Kedrickwills, and I serve as the Director of the Idaho State Police, and I appreciate your attendance this afternoon as we talk about this horrific, horrific crime. The murders of Ethan, Xana, Madison, and Kaylee are a tragic loss to all of us. Nothing we can do will bring back these young lives. But we have an absolute commitment to working together to solve these senseless murders. And the way that we know how to do that is partnerships. And our partnership with the Moscow Police Department, with the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the University of Idaho to bring this issue to a conclusion and bring this to justice is absolute. We continue with Idaho State Police resources here on the ground in Moscow and throughout Idaho. Whatever the needs are, that's what we want to do. And the chief spoke about the Idaho State Police resources that are here, and he spoke about patrol resources. And we have those uniformed troopers here in Moscow and on the campus of the University of Idaho to help people to feel safe and to provide that security to the people that are here, both in the student body as well as in the community at large. And we will continue to do that as long as is necessary throughout this time. In addition, that's in addition to our forensics team that was here, in addition to our investigative team and all the other state police resources.
Okay, while they're going here, we've heard some reports, I think, from family members that gave us more information about the knife, and particularly, let me show you an image here that I believe may be representative of the type of knife that we're dealing with. Let's see, it's on channel 3 here. Knife A, if you look at this knife, is the type of knife, I believe, because it gets pretty graphic, but I believe one of the dads mentioned that the knife tore the skin too. Knife A has sort of like hooks on the back, like a saw blade almost, that might be indicative of that. But this is a fixed blade type knife. They call them full tang, where the metal from the knife, like the knife blade, continues down through the handle, and the entire thing has a one continuous piece of metal from end to end. But that I believe is the type of knife they're looking for in this case. Let's see where we are. We're back on 6 here. Okay.
We know that people want answers. We want answers too. As was already mentioned, this is really, really difficult for those investigators, those dedicated professionals who are investigating this crime. And a lot of people have expressed their desire to help, and the best thing that most of people can do to help is to stop with any kind of rumors and just seek official information that comes out of the Moscow Police Department. Anything that we have that we can share from a law enforcement perspective, we will be sharing just as soon as we can, because that's how we think that we can get this to conclusion. Please rely on official sources of information, and please be patient. I understand that everybody wishes that this was solved already, but these things take time. It takes time to work through. You heard the stats of all the tips and everything, the interviews and everything that's been done. This takes time for our investigators to work through. So please be patient as we work through this investigation. We owe this to these young kids, to these young adults. We owe it to them. And we are absolutely dedicated to make sure that happens. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce the University of Idaho President Scott Green.
Okay, so I think that covers everything we need to cover about the the update. But yeah, that is crazy. I think with the number of tips they have coming in, it's if there are multiple people involved, you've heard people say that two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. Anytime there are more people involved, the chance of being discovered is higher. But let's see. We'll see where that goes. Back here. All right. Did anyone make sure Matthew Terry is still in custody? Why do you say that? Do you think he got away or something? I think he's definitely still in custody. The killer could be anywhere by now. Katrina, I don't think they're trying to cast a net to set a perimeter and make sure we catch them. At this point, they've already got away. There's already enough time, enough of a head start that they could be almost anywhere. So what they have to focus on now is focusing on the evidence that will lead them to who that person is. And that evidence is, the collection methods they have for evidence are very effective. And it might be through DNA. It might be weeks down the road through DNA analysis that someone's blood turns up in the mix that shouldn't have been there. And maybe that's how it comes about. A secret isn't a secret if you tell someone. You're right, MB. That is a lot of tips, right? But and a lot of these people are just people who are just calling to say, I don't know if it helps, but I went to the food truck and I stood in line and there were 6 people ahead of me, type thing. It's, some of this information was just going to be almost on the garbage level, but still has to be sorted through and pieced together so it can build timelines and just a sequence of events that may be a little piece of what one person saw might be the missing piece in what someone else saw. So it's a ton of work, and that's why they have so many people there. Can we watch the questions part of the press conference? Let me jump ahead to that. It was after the let's see. Let me see if we can get there here. Just one second. Let's go to 6 here.
News. You all have said that these killings are targeted. Can you share with us why you believe they are targeted killings? And do you know who, if any, of the victims were the actual targets of the killings?
As we stated earlier in the previous press release, or press conference, we believe they're targeted because we take a totality of all the circumstances that we're looking at. Do we know any one person that it was targeted? We're not able to say at this point in time due to our investigation, but we still believe that. But like I said, we take a totality of everything that we're looking at.
Chief Glenn Mosley, Idaho Public Radio here in Moscow. On the resources, do you have the resources that you need?
We do have the resources. It is an incredible outpouring of what we receive from the Idaho State Police and from the Federal Bureau of Investigations and Latah County. Anything we ask for is given. So at any time, if we need additional, all I have to do is call the colonel, and he will provide that. He's already guaranteed me that, and I know the FBI has said the same thing.
Hi, Emma Epperly from the Spokesman Review. I know you've said you're not going to release who the 911 caller was, but was the killer the 911 caller?
I will tell you no.
Can you clarify, you said it was made from the roommate's phone, but you didn't say the roommate made the call. So did the roommate make the call on the roommate's phone, or can you clarify if it was another individual who made the call?
Actually, if we could just go to this one first. So what I'll say to that is it was made from the roommate's phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call. It's part of our investigation still, and when we get ready to release that, we will.
Hi, Christina Corbin with Fox News. The male subject whom the women called, has he been ruled out as a suspect or person of interest?
Everything that we have taken from those calls, we have followed up on, we've cleared, and we believe that there's no connection there.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News. Just following up on the 911 call, you said that you don't believe that's the killer. Can you conclusively rule out the person that called 911 from inside the home as a suspect in this case?
Can you go ahead and just ask that one more time, please?
The person that was inside the home that called 911 that was not one of the roommates, can you conclusively rule that person out as a suspect at this point?
I don't think I said that it wasn't one of the roommates. I said that it was used with the roommate's phone.
I believe somebody asked if that was the killer, and you said no.
No, that's correct.
Was there someone there other than the two roommates when police responded?
This is weird because the way he's phrasing this and the way he's answering these questions, it basically sounds like it can only be one roommate using another roommate's phone. That's the setting. But maybe it was like it may be another person. We may have more people there than we know right now. I think some of you hinted at that. Joseph Newton says, recovery addict, you would think the two roommates of the house would have heard something if they were not involved. Joseph, it's possible that some drinking may have gone on the night before and they might have been sleeping it off. So I'm not sure.
So will you clarify that for me?
You're not confirming a roommate called 911, but used the roommate's phone. So was there someone else at the home other than those two roommates?
There was other friends that had arrived at the location.
How many?
And was that who made the call?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure at this time, to be quite honest.
Do you guys have any idea if the killer's still within the community, or are you looking outside the community for the killer in terms of their physical location?
We are looking everywhere that evidence would lead us. I can't say if the person's here. I can't say what community the person's in. We're utilizing every resource we can to make that location of that individual. And part of that is the safety of our community is paramount, and that's why we brought in the resource that we brought in to keep our community as safe as we can.
Okay, so Lindsay, your question here I think is insightful. From my understanding, the roommate called friends over before calling 911. That makes sense. The person they might have been trying to wake that wasn't waking up for some reason, I mean, if they were killed very quickly, like if the stab wounds was literally ended their life very rapidly, there may not be a ton of blood. And depending on how they were laying or positioned on the bed or something, it might not even be apparent to somebody that they're not waking up, and that's the reason. So if they called roommates and friends over, basically the whole house, a whole bunch of people are coming over. They're like, oh crap, alcohol poisoning, quick, call 911. Everybody's there, and then they find out that everybody's, 4 people have been killed. That's bizarre.
Close to the border, does that make it kind of automatically an interstate investigation? Can you comment on that?
I cannot comment on that. I'm not even aware.
If you look in Washington at all, I guess, for...
We're looking everywhere. I'm going to take 2 more questions.
Do you still believe this attack was done by one perpetrator? And if so, how does one individual kill 4 people at night and not wake up the other 2 roommates?
Okay, before he answers that, someone says, is this a small police force handling this? I wonder if they have the resources to do a proper investigation. The town of Moscow, Idaho has 25,000 people in it. Okay, so it's not tiny. I mean, I live in a smaller town, but it's not tiny. They have assigned a lot of resources, and they do have a lot of federal agents as well participating. So he says he has enough people there, but it's a big case for a small town.
Our investigation will continue to look at all avenues of that investigation. I cannot disclose any of that information. I don't even know that information at this point in time, and that's why we're continuing to investigate.
You don't know how this happened without the other 2 roommates hearing it or waking up or noticing?
We do not. One more question.
Hi, Angela Palermo, Idaho Statesman. In the press release yesterday, you confirmed that the victims were found on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the home. Can you say which of the victims were found where?
I'm not going to go ahead and disclose that information. They were found on the 2nd and 3rd floor, and that's as far as we're going to go with that part of the investigation too.
Okay, so stop for a second. If they're found on the 2nd and 3rd floor, how does that match with the blood leaking out of the house at ground level, is my understanding? Wasn't that a ground level, like a first floor image? For those of you who have seen that from Court TV, if you have to check, how do you have blood leak down from 2nd floor all the way down the wall to the outside on the 1st floor?
because all those key pieces do come to play later. So we do thank you. We thank you for meeting with us. We thank you for helping get information out, and I can assure you we will continue to work hard. We will continue to do everything we can to solve this. So thank you.
Is this related to any animal mutilation?
Are you able to talk to Holly's report? This person will strike again. In terms of victimology, do you think the victims might be connected?
These questions as they're walking out of the room, they never get answered. Okay, so Katie Q, the picture was from the outside of the house. A reporter from Court TV was doing what they call a live hit outside the house. So they had someone in the studio talking back to the reporter, and she's like, "Hey, we took this picture a minute ago, and it's for looking through the bushes at the house, and there it sure looks like blood is dripping down the outside of the wall below the siding." So I'm not sure if is that picture over on Discord yet, Lil Miss or Toxic. Ginger says, "I bet that wasn't even blood leaking out." It may not be. I don't think it's blood. It's a previous stain, but it sure is interesting. It looks like blood. So, but I don't know how the Court TV could have determined that that's what it was. Shauna says, when calls come into the sheriff's office, they will ask if the person's responsive. That's why they keep saying that, a responsive person call. Right, but generally on that call, if there's a stabbing, they would include that information on the police call as well. I've done a lot of years of listening to police scanners, so generally they would include that bit of pertinent information in addition to them non-responsive. Whereas responsive is the status of the individual. The injury would also be listed. I heard it was weatherproofing. Okay, so Court TV said it was blood, which, yeah, I'm not sure how they figured out. I just found some of those photos from different outlets. I'm trying to place it with the floor plan of the house, but it could be on the second level, says Lindsay. Thanks, Lindsay. If you find that, please do share it over on the Discord. Like Toxic mentioned, if you're not on the Discord already, Toxic and Lil Miss have an amazing Discord called As the Gavel Drops, which tracks everything true crime. If it's happening in the country, if it's true crime related, there's a good chance that their Discord page has more information than you currently have on the topic available to you. Everything from calendaring to court documents, updates, just everything is on there. House was built into a hill, 3 floors seen on one side, only 2 on the other. Okay, that might help. That might be interesting. Lil Miss says, I posted a screenshot from Court TV in Discord in the case file. Okay, so go check that out. It's a little hard for me to access Discord with my current setup. I might have to change things around so I can pull up Discord. If Toxic and Lil Miss are cool with that, I might be able to pull up some of the pages from Discord on a future live stream. Anyway, where are we at? We're sitting about an hour and a half this morning. We've got some good things covered. MB says, recovery addict, I thought I heard or read that a roommate found one of the deceased, thought they were unconscious, and the roommate's friend called 911. Then police found other victims. That's what it sounds like to me as well. I didn't hear that actual set of facts as they occurred type thing played out. But as you put everything together, that sounds right. What story are you covering now? Trying to catch up. Crafty Cat, we've been talking about a couple this morning. We've talked first about Sarah Boone. We sort of reanalyzed the letters she sent to her lawyer and to the judge, looking at the possibility of her representing herself, of her testifying in her own defense. If this goes to trial, talked about her lawyer situation a little bit and how she's not happy with that. We also have talked a little bit about the OnlyFans murder, Courtney Clenny, where she's charged with stabbing and killing her boyfriend. Talked about that as far as her, her chance for bail and her risk, because she apparently is a flight risk with her more than adequate financial situation to pay for her living abroad. And now we're talking about the Idaho stabbing where 4 are dead. This is ripped from the headlines. This is not going to be in the courts anytime soon, the way things are progressing, because the police don't even have a suspect at this point, or at least anyone they can name, but they're just looking for any information at all. We've got 4 college students, 1 male, 3 females, that were in a house with two other college students, and they went to bed probably I think everyone was home by about 1:45 in the morning. And next morning, just before noon, the police get a call of an unresponsive person, and they find 4 people dead in the house who've been stabbed to death. So that's happening up in Moscow, Idaho, which is way up north. It's way up high in Idaho. It's cold up there too. Alexa says, I'm listening in today with little interaction, but the Idaho case has been really bothering me. I've got family pretty close to that area. Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad situation. If it's targeted, somehow we sometimes feel better. If it's like, oh, this wasn't random, this is somebody taking out revenge. But still, 4 people, they probably had revenge on 1, maybe 2, if it was a boyfriend-girlfriend type situation. And then opportunity to kill the others, yeah, it doesn't make sense. If I was one of the surviving Idaho roommates, I'd be freaking out waiting for police to arrest me for something I didn't do. They said they've already basically cleared them, that there's no reason to suspect them. But hopefully that update helps for you, Crafty Cow. Glad you could make it here. Broadway Garden says, really enjoying hanging out with all you guys. Thank you so much for keeping everything kind and civil. This is a great community, Broadway. It's wonderful to be part of it, and you guys are amazing. Alexa says, yes, Moscow police released it last night. 911 call came from a survivor's phone, but not necessarily a survivor. Also, there were friends at the scene, but not housemates when the 911 call was made. So people came to the crime scene, sort of like Sarah Boone. People were called before the police, apparently. So Tom R. says, recovery addict, you should search Polk Sheriff on YouTube and show the first video. It's a press release from the sheriff of my neighboring county, and all this took place very close to my house. It's interesting. Tell me a little bit more. It happened yesterday morning. Tell me a little bit more. I don't want to just... I hesitate to play video I haven't screened first because, I'm responsible for anything that goes down the channel. But I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I'll take a look at it. Tamara Week says, it was an article that talked about current murder and referenced this other murder. I don't remember where I saw it. I'm sorry. I've been all over the place watching and reading about this. There's a ton of information out there. Most of it seems to be fairly accurate. Obviously, there's some speculation on social media, but yeah, they may have cleared them, but they are probably still the 2 best suspects the police have. They basically don't have anything to go on right now. So interesting. Okay, so we've talked a little bit. I think tomorrow, I don't think we're going to focus on the OnlyFans murder tomorrow. I think we're going to do a Knox live stream. Possibly not a live stream, but going back and watching a couple of the Knox magistrate appearances from over the weekend, which have been very, very interesting. Shauna says, love our addicts. PSA, if your friend isn't waking up, call medical before friends. Who knows? You might contaminate a crime scene. Yeah. It might be a common occurrence that, struggling to get people to wake up as they're sleeping something off. Why would he call other people instead of 911 first? Ask Sarah Boone. Why did she call her ex-husband before the police? Terry Graham says, what happened yesterday? We had that press conference. We just played 2 parts of it. Out of Moscow, Idaho. This is the situation where 4 college students were found murdered in their house not far from campus. So just getting a little bit more information each day with each press conference. Hopefully the police will have a suspect soon. Tomar says, this guy was throwing Molotovs at houses and got into a chase, and it was an officer-involved shooting where they said we changed the appearance of his groin forever. Oh, my goodness. Let me take a look at that one. So apparently the officers hit him, but not for the center mass as they were aiming for. But I think the last thing the roommates anticipated was that 4 people were murdered. They probably thought roommate was blacked out, not responding to knocks, yells, and calls. Yeah, the killer may have locked the doors in these bedrooms as they left. That's a possibility. The Knox Stream people are crazy. Golden Mom, I agree. It's bizarre, the sort of stuff they have. Sheriff involved shooting. Is that the one, Tom? I'm going to look up that one, Tom. That sounds interesting. Might share that tomorrow. I want to watch it first myself, if that's all right. PSA, pro bono representation now being offered by Boone, to Boone by DB. Yeah, that's not going to get him out. Sheriff Grady. Crazy. All right. So, I think we've got a plan for tomorrow. We're gonna do some Knox live stream or Knox stream, which is always fun. I'll keep my eye out for any police chases that happen as well. This week, that might be the best chance of having any live stream during the day is having a police chase, just because of the holidays coming up. A lot of the courts are taking a break to give people time with their families and everything that way. But hopefully, you guys all are prepared and ready and excited for what is going to be coming up with Thanksgiving. Hopefully you can spend some time with family, people you love, maybe invite a friend over or something. Enjoy the time together. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all of you, those who've liked, subscribed, who shared the stream. It's very much appreciated. I will be back on tomorrow, 9 a.m., same time. We'll talk about some more fun stuff, true crime related. In the meantime, please give everybody you love a hug. Smile at somebody, make their day better. Please stay safe, and we'll see you guys on the next live stream.